The Spirit Award nominations are in, and we're going to talk all about them, plus AFI Fest Recap. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Popcorn Talk, featuring movie discussion, news, and interviews. Popcorn Talk. We talk movies.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Film Critics Weekly right here on the Popcorn Talk Network. I, of course, am Scott Menzel, the founder of the Los Angeles Online Film Critics Society, and joining me today for a lively conversation about independent cinema is Mr. Stephen Saito.
Hi.
So, Stephen, where can the people find you? Where can they read your work?
I have a site. I write for a site called The Movable Fest, and we're at www.movablefest.com.
Awesome. So Stephen is the perfect person to have on this show because he's one of the members of our organization who feels so passionately about independent film. He's the guy who goes to even the bigger festivals and still seeks out the smaller indies instead of going to the big premieres, and we love him for it because he spreads the word of mouth about these small movies that so many of you have missed. Before we go into the nominations, what was your overall thoughts on the Spirit Award nominations? Were you satisfied? Did you think something got left out?
I'm not sure whether I thought anything got left out. I mean, the thing is that there's so many worthy independents this year that if you get caught up in what got left out, I think there's a list for days. But I think at the same time, I think they did a good job of really stepping out of the shadow of the other award ceremonies. There are a lot of films on here that I don't think are going to either get attention from the Academy or and I think that that's really one of the best things that the Spirit Awards can do is bring attention to movies that really are worthy of praise and aren't going to be acknowledged elsewhere.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think there was one movie that kept coming up on this list that I felt like I was very surprised that it had this big of a pull in the Independent Spirit Awards because I think it was right on the cusp of like not even qualifying to be in this, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But for the most part, it was nice seeing some of these smaller titles get some love. There's still many of which that I felt like were either left out or like in odd categories where I felt like, why is that person there and shouldn't it be in this category? But overall, I always get excited about the Spirit Awards because I feel like they really are different than all the other award ceremonies because they really try to focus on films that some people may know and some of them are bigger than others, but there's a lot of smaller movies that few of which I didn't even see that now I will probably go back and watch and try to see it before the ceremony.
Absolutely. Well, one of my favorites, this film called Give Me Liberty, turned out to be one of the big, they got 4 nominations, so it's among the top nominees there, and that was a movie that felt like it got overshadowed at Sundance, where it was in the next category, and then it had a small release in August of this year, and it's an incredible movie. It's set in Milwaukee and about this sort of ambulance driver who attends to special needs people, but he's also pulled in by his Russian family, and it's this crazy energetic movie. And the amount of effort that went into this movie, I mean, they really had an entire community buy in on it. It really is something that should be celebrated, and it's every bit as entertaining as any other film I can think of this year. So I was so happy to see it get some attention.
And as someone who has went to Sundance and goes to Sundance every year, I never heard of it. I don't even remember it playing at Sundance. So, this is why we need things like Film Independent and why we need the Spirit Awards, because it brings light to these smaller films that I'm in the industry. I see movies every day of the week, and I still never heard of it. So if I haven't heard of it, obviously regular people are not going to be hearing about these movies. So that movie sounds interesting. I hope they send us a screener because I actually want to watch it now. It sounds really great. So in terms of, we're going to just do a rundown. We're going to start, of course, with Best Feature. And the nominees that were in here are A Hidden Life, Clemency, The Farewell, Marriage Story, Uncut Gems. Solid category for sure. Some missing, I feel. Your thoughts?
I'm really happy about both Uncut Gems and Clemency, which I think are two movies that, because they're coming out at the end of the year, not a lot of people have seen them yet, and they would be definitely within my top 10 of the year. So, but yeah, no, I mean, I thought it was a good category. It's always interesting because they have a $22.5 million budget line, which is a really random thing. But I'm trying to think. I mean, when you see other films that are... The interesting thing about the Spirit Awards, too, is that when you see other movies nominated in other categories, it sort of clues you into what may be missing from the top category. I probably would have included Loose in the,
100%.
Best Feature.
Me too.
Last Black Man in San Francisco, I'm also seeing as a Best First Feature, and they have a habit of doing that at the Spirits, where it really is sort of a spread the wealth kind of thing. That's why Marriage Story wasn't eligible for any other category except for Best Features, because they're giving it a Robert Altman Award, which covers the ensemble.
Yeah, I think, I mean, Marriage Story was the one that, like, I look at these movies and I feel that they're kind of a celebration of independent film in various ways, and not to discredit Marriage Story, because I think Marriage Story is in my top 5 of the year. I think it's an incredible, remarkable film. But when I see that in here among these other ones, I kind of say to myself, is it? You know, like, I know the budget is small, but at the same time, like, it's the weird thing where I would rather have seen a Loose or a Waves in this category instead. And hell, I think even Booksmart would have been. I mean, I know it's in first feature, but in terms of the type of movie and type of the independent feel, I don't get the independent vibe from Marriage Story. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that's another thing about the Spirit Awards is I think they're the Film Independent allows the producers to submit the movies, so, and it's voted on by committee, which is always a little mysterious as well. So the nominating process for this is always a little bit strange.
That's interesting. I mean, I'm mixed on Uncut Gems. You know, I of course love those guys. I think Sandler is phenomenal in the film, but there's certain aspects of it that I really kind of bug me, and I don't think it's as good as Good Time. But I still think it's a great movie, and I think that people are really going to be on the fence. It's gonna be, to me, Uncut Gems is the independent Joker, where I feel like people are going to go into that and either love it or hate it. You know, there's not going to be much middle ground with that movie.
Well, and it's interesting. I feel like that actually is something. I mean, Uncut Gems is probably the one I'm most excited about in the Best Feature category, because, and I'm now thinking about Waves as well. Those are really experiences. I mean, you're in that movie from the first second, and you can either feel that that's like an abrasive thing that you don't want to be a part of, or once you're in it, you're really sucked in. And yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm a huge Uncut Gems fan, and I'm very happy to see it in there. But it is always weird. I mean, you're seeing throughout this interesting duality with, like, Hidden Life and Marriage Story in the Best Feature category, and you're right, those don't necessarily feel like indie productions. They're made by people that have had the support of the industry for the longest time, and at the same time, you've got all this that want to support new voices and bring new people into the fold. So yeah, it's always an interesting tension.
I agree, and what's also interesting to me is that with how much love, and we'll talk about it as it comes up, but how there was so much love for Lighthouse, and yet Lighthouse totally missed this category, which is very interesting.
That is interesting, yeah. And I mean, I can sort of understand that though as well. I mean, I really think at least Lighthouse for me was really in the performances more than the piece itself. But yeah, I believe they both got nominated, and yeah, Robert Eggers got nominated for director. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Moving on to Best First Feature, we have Booksmart, The Climb, Diane, The Last Black Man in San Francisco, The Mustang, and See You Yesterday. This was, again, this is another interesting category for me. I feel like throwing The Mustang in here was very interesting on the Spirit Awards, because I think everyone has forgotten about The Mustang. I really like, that was a movie that came out March earlier this year, and it was also wasn't supposed to come out like last year, and something happened where they wound up pushing it.
Yeah, I think that that sounds right to me.
Yeah.
It was at Sundance. I actually did see this at Sundance, and I liked it. It did sort of fade from memory, but this was an interesting case. Best First Feature usually is a category where they support something that doesn't have distribution or has played the festival circuit, and I think Mustang really benefited from the fact that it was distributed by Focus. All of these have major distributors behind them, even See You Yesterday, which is a Netflix title. So yeah, although I can't argue with some of the choices. I mean, I really like Booksmart. I really like Last Black Man in San Francisco, and Diane is really a nice movie as well that came out, I think, in March, and I think is coming back because of Mary Kay Place's performance being, talked up. So.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. IFC has done a really good job this year of actually pushing their movies a little bit better. I mean, what people may not know about award season, it really comes down to the amount of money you can spend. I mean, there's been a lot of talk about this and criticism about this, and Netflix knows how to do this. I mean, as someone who gets screeners, and you too, Stephen, we see the differences in packages and like what they look like. It's like, you get it. Does it come in an envelope, or does it come in just like a little plastic like white sleeve? And the smaller studios can't afford to give like a big marriage story book with with letters in there, which I think unfortunately sometimes puts the smaller films at a disadvantage, because it gets buried. You put it on the table. I'm going to watch that. And then the marriage story gets piled on top of it, and then the Missing Link book came, and that gets piled on top of it. But I appreciate them as smaller studios, and as someone who values the smaller movies, I love that they were one of the first people to send a screener, and that they were able to kind of get the word out about this in the Nightingale, which the Nightingale completely snubbed from all this, which is surprising to me considering the love that the independent film industry has for Jennifer Kent. I mean, she doesn't fit in this category, but I'm just saying, like, I'm surprised she didn't even get any mention at all.
The more you talk about this, the more I'm going to realize all the wonderful films that got snubbed. Because I mean, Jennifer Kent belongs here. The Nightingale. The Nightingale, I mean, it's so interesting that we're going to wind up talking about, how a film's profile is sort of built up. Yeah. Because, the thing, going back to the Mustang, the thing is that when you get a package, often a distributor will send a bunch of movies. So you're maybe more interested than if you just get the one movie when you get like a slate. And which may have contributed to the Mustang being on the list, that people actually took an interest in it. The same with the Nightingale. Nightingale is a tough movie because they took an interesting festival route last year where it seemed like they didn't go to Toronto. They premiered in Venice, where not a lot of critics saw it. They waited until Sundance, where by that time it wasn't considered like a new film, so less press would go to see it. And then it came out during the summer, and I was struck by just how remarkable a movie this was. And even in my own mind, and being so excited about Jennifer Kent, I was feeling like a summer release for that movie. I felt like it had sort of been under the radar even for myself, who covers this space really aggressively. So yeah, no, I think that's why a movie like that isn't on here, is because and I'm so glad that now it's getting a little bit more attention thanks to the awards talk. But yeah, no, it's interesting how these movies come in and out of consciousness.
Yeah, I mean, like Booksmart also came out early in the year. It was beloved by everyone in the industry, but it didn't do too well at the box office. Same thing with Last Black Man, right? Like, I feel like that was a movie that came out at Sundance. Everyone was really talking it up. It kind of came and went very quickly. It was not one of the stronger A24 pushes either. I felt like they did very little. I don't even think I got a junket invite for that one.
Well, the interesting thing, it actually made, I think, like around $6 million, which is pretty good for a low profile. But yeah, no, it was, and I think that part of that was that it didn't have, I know Danny Glover's in it, but I think that they had a hard time getting there was no star. They could build Farewell around Awkwafina. They couldn't really do that with Last Black Man in San Francisco, even though it has two remarkable performances at the center from Joe Talbot and Jonathan Majors. So yeah, no, it's a wonderful
it's studying film every day is fascinating. It's a fascinating journey, not only just seeing the movie, but actually talking about it and looking at what they do with marketing campaigns and reward season. It's all very interesting. Moving on to the John Cassavetes Award, I am going to be 100% honest and say that I have not seen a single one. I'm ashamed that I have not seen a single movie on this list. Burning Cane, Coldwell, Give Me Liberty, Premature, Wild Nights with Emily, and actually the only one I heard of on this list is Wild Nights with Emily.
Well, the reason for part of that is that Coldwell, which is a really special film, hasn't yet actually. I don't believe Coldwell has a distributor yet. It premiered at the San Francisco Film Festival, and I was really happy to see Karen Allen get a nomination for it. She plays a postal worker, and it's an interesting movie about how the post office is going to be shut down in a town that doesn't have really access to much communication otherwise in America. It's a really lovely small film, the kind that I feel the Spirit Award should be championing. But yeah, no, a lot of what makes me excited is Burning Cane. It was recently distributed by Ava DuVernay's company Array, and it's now on Netflix. Anybody can watch it. And so when the Spirit Awards happen, I think that a really exciting thing is, people are going to be able, and I'm guessing the same is true of Give Me Liberty. People are just going to be able to stream it when they want to do it, when they hear the name of the movie. But yeah, no, it's an interesting. A lot of people haven't seen these films, and Premature hasn't come out yet. That was a Sundance movie earlier this year, also in the next category. And yeah, I think that comes out in early January, so they'll also get some buzz from that one.
Yeah, I mean, I have nothing to add because I haven't seen any of them. But again, this is what I love about movies like this and ceremonies like this is because I now will go back and watch these movies. It brings awareness to like these underrepresented films. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of those, and I will, now that I've seen all the big stuff, and I will vote for our category and then Critics' Choice next week. I will be able to catch up on all these other smaller movies that I missed out on, and then hopefully participate in the Spirit Awards voting as well. Best Director, I am going to butcher all of these names, by the way, and I apologize. So I might just name the movies instead of doing that. So I'm going to say Best Director, Honey Boy got Best Director, Hustlers, Loose, The Lighthouse, and Uncut Gems. This is the most solid category of the bunch.
I was gonna say, if you look at it and you think to yourself, well, maybe this should have been the best. This should have been the best feature. No, it's strange how that happened.
Yes, no, I think this is the best category, and I would be. My personal opinion of The Lighthouse is that it's not very good. And especially when you compare it to The Witch. But I would be happy with any of the other people winning.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I can say looking over it is I don't think that these films could have been made by anybody else.
Yes,
which is how
that's
the
very
director category probably should be.
Yeah. And I'm very happy that Luce is in here because I mean I've been championing that movie since I've seen it back at Sundance. Another movie that was very quiet, right? That had a very quiet. I felt like when I tweeted, like a lot of when you tweet at film festivals, if it's a bigger premiere, there's always like a lot of like interaction with it. Luce, I remember tweeting and it was like nothing.
I want to say that actually premiered later in the festival too, which
At
was
the
also
library.
Yeah. And that was, it was frustrating with both Luce and Clemency that they came later in the festival, and I think less people got a chance to see them. So, and they were among the strongest movies of the festival.
Yeah,
so.
I agree. And I'm very happy for Honey Boy. This is another movie that I've been championing for a while now, and I feel. It's very personal to Shia LaBeouf. Alma has been, the director, has been such a sweetheart every time I've seen her. Just very humble. Really seems concerned about mental illness and also about depression and anxiety. Which to me helps sell the movie more. It makes me want to root for the movie more because you can tell that everyone behind it is actually passionate about it and it's important to them. And then nice to see Hustlers get some love. Nice to see that.
I was a little disappointed that Jennifer Lopez didn't get some, which is a strange thing for me to say. I was surprised that she wasn't in the female lead category.
Yeah,
because it's a knockout performance.
Yeah, she's so good in that movie. I will give it 2 because I would never say that either. Best screenplay. Moving over to there. Here's our marriage story back over here. To Dust, Uncut Gems, Clemency, and High Flying Bird, which Aaron Newworth actually pointed out and wanted to put into our voting as well. So, congrats for that nomination.
Well, I was a little disappointed the other day when we got screeners for The Laundromat, and I feel that High Flying Bird is the stronger of the 2 Soderbergh movies this year.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, no, and another one, High Flying Bird, I think, I would have put that in the best feature category also.
Yeah, it's amazing what they pick, but I mean, this is a pretty strong category. Did you see To Dust?
I did, and that's got a fascinating story behind it, because it's about a Hasidic, it's about a Hasidic Jew who needs to bury his wife and contacts Matthew Broderick, who's a sort of, it's an interesting extension of his character in Election. He's sort of a dead-end professor at a community college, and it's this really wonderful little culture clash comedy, but has Sean Snyder, he steeped himself in knowledge of the Talmud and the amount of research that went in. I mean, I feel it deserves a screenplay nomination just for, what he was able to extract from, religious texts in order to make an entertaining movie. So.
That one sounds interesting too. I gotta check that one out. I've seen everything else on this, and I agree. I mean, I know this is not nominated here, but why we got a Laundromat screener in just general, I'm very confused. I'm very, very confused.
And I want to be clear, I actually like Laundromat, but because it's episodic, it's more or less episodic. The middle section of it with the family just kills me. But
okay.
It's an interesting and I feel like High Flying Bird is coming. It's High Flying Bird. The fact that it came out in February, and I think it's being championed by people now who feel like it got a little bit of a shaft back then, and so I'm happy to see it coming back.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about a festival killing a movie's buzz. I don't think anything killed the laundromats buzz more than the Toronto International Film Festival.
It's true. If you were standing in line and anybody had seen the laundromat, which again it contributed probably why I saw it about 2 weeks after Toronto, and I got to enjoy it on its own terms. But it was pretty toxic in Toronto for that film.
Yeah. Moving on to best first screenplay, See You Yesterday, Driveways, Blow the Man Down, which also premiered at AFI Fest, or was playing there.
It premiered at Tribeca, actually.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, well, and this is Blow the Man Down is near and dear to my heart. It's it premiered at Tribeca. It's just one of the most wonderful films I've seen in a while. It's about a murder, it's a small fishing village in Maine, and these two young women find out that basically the lives that they thought that they grew up with amongst all the women in this town who sort of remained silent, they find out, there were murders and all kinds of crimes going on, and there's sea shanties being sung, and Margot Martindale is like the heavy in it, and it's just a wonderful, wonderful movie.
Yeah, and then Greener Grass and the Vast of the Night. This again, you kind of like, you look at some of these categories, and then you look at like a category like this, and here's a completely more like a really indie thing where like most of America probably never even heard of any of these movies.
Yeah, well, and the good thing is, with the exception of Greener Grass is now in theaters, and See You Yesterday again is on Netflix. Driveways, Blow the Man Down, and Vast of Night, I think all should get a boost going into their releases next. They're all coming out next year, and they should get boosted. I mean, Vast of Night is an interesting movie because that premiered at Slam Dance and didn't get much attention at all, and then got selected by Toronto and got picked up by Amazon, and it's going to be, for an indie film, it's going to be a big deal next year. So, yeah, it's always nice to see. It's a really strong category in terms of like people to be really excited about.
Yeah. Moving on to best cinematography, we have Hustlers, The Lighthouse, Honey Boy, The Third Wife, and Midsommar. I will say this, that Midsommar is really surprising to me that this is the only category that it's in on this list. Because I feel like a crazy madman when I say that I only thought that movie was okay, because I feel like people love this movie. But I guess cinematography? I don't know. I mean, if anything, I thought Florence should have gotten it for actress, because I think she's...
I agree.
What's your take on Midsommar?
I'm steadily more. I'm a rare non-Hereditary fan.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I've been. It was interesting. I like Midsommar. It wasn't one of my favorite films of the year. I think that Florence Pugh is amazing in it. Cinematography is an interesting thing. I think that they did do some really interesting stuff with, I mean, it is a horror film shot in the day, so that's unusual. I'm steadily warming to Ari Aster.
He's a very disturbed man, I have a feeling to be.
I think, there's no question about that. And yeah, they did some really, I mean, there's some really, I mean, when you read about what either Jaron Blaschke did for The Lighthouse or Natasha Breher for Honey Boy, what they did to make the films look the way they did really is extraordinary.
This is the category where I would put Lighthouse 100%, because I think if anything about Lighthouse that stood out to me, because I'm not a fan of that movie, is either the direction and also the cinematography, because I think it's the way that it's crafted is very unique and it really stands out.
Yeah, and that may be, I mean, I'm with you on The Lighthouse. I mean, I think the Lighthouse, I think actually part of the reason that I'm feel a little distant from it is how extraordinary the craft is, and it feels like it's I mean, I never got involved in it because it feels like such an amazing production that, it feels like there's a little bit distance there.
Yeah, I mean, that is the one, that will be the movie this year that, like, I will just shake my head and I'll never understand it. Because I get the camera work, I get the idea, I get the concept, but the execution for me, and I mean, even the performances, like people were like, oh, the performances are so great. And I'm kind of like, is it? It's like William Dafoe doing like a Boston accent and Robert Pattinson doing a Boston accent, which kind of fades in and out pretty much consecutively throughout the freaking movie. So, like, I don't know about that movie, and I just felt like it was so empty when I walked out of it. Like, I just...
Well, and I feel like you either want to hang with those guys for 2 hours
and
or
watch
you
them
don't.
fart and masturbate.
Yeah.
I mean...
Some people want that.
Good for them.
To each their own, yeah.
To each their own. Moving on to Best Editing, Third Wife, Uncut Gems, Sword of Trust, The Lighthouse, Give Me Liberty. Good. I mean, is there any doubt that Uncut Gems is going to win this?
I don't think so. I think it's got the highest profile. This was a strange. Sword of Trust. Sword of Trust is a really nice low-key movie. Editing would not have been where I would have thought that you would have nominated this. It's a strange. Uncut Gems, I think, is gonna take this.
Yeah, and then Best Female Lead. We got Colwell, we got Driveway, we got Her Smell, we got Diane, we got Clemency, and we got Judy. Judy just like it sticks out here as a sore thumb. Like it's like, why is this here? I know like everyone wants Renee. And I'm just like, does this fit in this category at all? Like, especially considering the other movies?
It's the most Oscar-chasing thing that you see in this entire list of nominees, I think, is like, this was the one where it was like, people knew that she's going to be likely nominated for an Oscar, so she'll get nominated here. Again, it's a lot of, it's an interesting category because there were three, Colwell, Driveway, or Karen Allen for Colwell, Hong Chow for Driveways, and Mary Kay Place for Diane are all very, very low-key, quiet, simmering performances. And then yes, you've got Judy and Her Smell, Elizabeth Moss's complete force of nature and Her Smell. There are going to be for voters, it's going to be there are going to be some very clear decisions made, I think, based on the acting styles involved. Alfre Woodard may actually be the best in the category in Clemency. I mean, she's remarkable in that film.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to take a guess at this, I would say that Woodward or Moss is going to probably walk away with this, just given the type of award ceremony it is. I mean, it's nice that they put Renee in there, but I would be shocked if she walks away with it at this awards.
I wonder whether you even attend this ceremony, just given that it's, I think, one of Roadside Attractions' only, I think that may be their only nomination here, and it's a strange thing to just nominate it for that one, that particular movie for that one award. It's unusual.
I agree with you. So Best Male Lead, we have Give Me Liberty. We have Kelvin Harrison Jr. for Loose, Robert Pattinson for The Lighthouse, Matthias, how do you pronounce that last name?
Schoenertz.
Okay, for The Mustang, and then Adam Sandler for Uncut Gems. This is a great category. This is another really great category. Although Patterson could be replaced by someone else, in my opinion.
Well, and honestly, the Chris Galoost for Give Me Liberty is the one I'm a little unsure of. I'm happy he got nominated. He was not actually an actor before doing the movie, and it's a nice role, but I would say it's between Kelvin Harrison and Adam Sandler probably in this category. And both are incredible in those in Loose and Uncut Gems respectively.
It's a tough call because it's like I feel like this movie for Sandler is kind of like his comeback movie, right? It's very much like Dolomite's not in any of these, and I don't think it qualifies. But I'm just saying like it's like that for Eddie Murphy, where I kind of want to root for him, but I think Kelvin Harrison Jr. is just a force of nature in everything. That I think he's the more worthy one, because it's just like this is the start of his career, I just would like to see him get it.
Well, and a plug for our organization, the LAOFCS. I'm so proud that we're going to be honoring him this year. This is the interesting thing about this kind of thing also, is that he's extraordinary both in Loose and in Waves. And because you're giving it for one film, that typically means you can't do it for another. So I'm really proud of our organization for recognizing that, because I think he's incredible in two films this year. He was incredible in Jin last year. I mean, he's been doing just incredible work in the last. I mean, he feels like a supernova over the past couple years.
Yeah, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does next. He told me he's actually doing something a little lighthearted. So, looking forward to seeing that. Best Supporting Female. Here's your Jennifer Lopez for Hustlers. Taylor Russell for Waves. The only mention of Waves on this entire list. Lauren Lolo Spencer for Give Me Liberty. Octavia Spencer for Loose. And, God, I'm so bad. Pronounce that for me. I don't want to butcher it. For Farewell.
Oh, Zhao Zhuzhen.
Yes.
The
Farewell.
grandmother.
The grandma.
Yeah.
This is also a very strong category. And I don't know. This is either like going to be a power play, or they're going to go for like the lesser known. And I don't know how it's going to swing, because you got Octavia Spencer going up against Jennifer Lopez in terms of like big name, giving great performance, or then you have the smaller people like Lauren and Taylor for their smaller films.
I actually, and I apologize for missing that earlier. I did not know Jennifer Lopez was nominated, but she owns that movie in such a way that I sort of feel like you have to vote for her. But listen, I think and the other thing about some of these awards is they're about narratives. I think that both Zhao Zhuzhen and Lauren Lolo Spencer have really compelling stories. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of those snuck in. Octavia Spencer, it's great to see her nominated. I think that, in this situation where you've got four other people that haven't won awards before, I think that that's going to play into things.
Interesting. So what do you think, Jennifer Lopez then?
I would guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's this push for this, right? There is really this push for her in that.
Well, the interesting thing I just thought about this with Taylor Russell is that her part of the movie is the part of the movie that you can't talk about.
Yes.
So it's going to be hard for her to get more traction as it goes on, because I think people are going to be reticent to talk about the last portion of the film where her performance is really most moving part of
I
that.
agree. I mean, that's a tough category. Best Supporting Male, we got William Dafoe for The Lighthouse, Noah Jupe for Honey Boy, Shia LaBeouf for Honey Boy, Jonathan Majors for The Last Black Man in San Francisco, Wendell Pierce for Burning Cane. I pointed this out yesterday. Noah Jupe should not be in this category. He should be in regular male. Regular actor.
I agree.
And it's it's even on Amazon's site. I don't know why it's in here.
I think this is a situation where Film Independent just went their own way. But I agree. I mean, I think that the unfortunate thing is that I think that those two performances cancel each other out, if you're voting on the film. So, I mean, and they're both incredible. I mean, it isn't, that's another category flaw, I think.
Well, we saw it last year with The Favorite.
Yeah.
Where it was Emma up against Rachel. Totally, didn't get any win anywhere, right? It was maybe one or somewhere, but...
Well, and it's interesting because everybody thought Olivia Colman was a mistake in the supporting actress category, and then she won the Best Actress category. So, hey, if they had put Noah Jupe in Best Actor, maybe he would have had a better shot at. And I'm not saying. I think he's got. I'm not sure whether he actually has a good shot against Shia, because Shia has such a great story going into this, and people may want to honor him for screenplay as much as
right. And that was also surprising, right? How did he not get a screenplay?
Yeah.
For this. This movie's so personal and so good. The script is so good. I don't know. But yeah, that's just strange to me. All right. Going over Robert Altman Award, we already talked about. That's Marriage Story. Going on to Best Documentary, American Factory, Apollo 11 for Sama, Honeyland, Island of Hungry Ghosts.
I'm guessing that you did not see the snow crab movie or the crab movie in Australia.
No,
I was surprised.
No, I did not, sir. No,
it's a fascinating movie about the erosion of crabs in I believe it's Australia, and there are two movies in here, both Honeyland and Island of Hungry Ghosts, that are both unusual approaches to climate change. But they're both very, very small films that played on the festival circuit.
And yet I feel like the two of the other, well, actually three, I feel like American Factory, Apollo 11, and For Sama there haven't been that many documentaries that were very buzzed about this year. But these three are the ones that I feel like were like really talked up, and especially Apollo 11.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is going to be, or is the front runner for documentary pretty much everywhere.
Well, I actually, this is another case where I think that I think Apollo 11 may have peaked too early.
Okay.
I think American Factory is going to be the big... I think it's strongest because it's going to be seen as a career award for Julia Reichert and Stephen Bognar. They actually have a retrospective right now at UCLA. They had a retrospective in New York. The documentary community, they're revered people within the documentary community. And while Apollo 11 is great, I think that, American Factory has the added bonus of being produced by the Obamas, which I think Netflix really, would like to see them, have their first production out be an Oscar winner.
Yeah, no, I agree. Best International Film, Invisible Life, Les Miserables, Parasite, Portrait of a Lady on Fire, Retablo?
Yeah,
Retablo, and The Souvenir. I'm going to make an honest confession. I hated Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
Oh, no.
Yeah. I felt like I was being tortured for 2 hours when I was watching that movie. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. I've been holding that in for a very long time.
I was going to say that my favorite thing about this category is that unlike the Oscars, after Portrait of a Lady on Fire did not get selected by France, that they could include two films from France, because I love both Les Miserables and Portrait of a Lady on Fire.
I'm alone on that, by the way, for Portrait of a Lady on Fire. A lot of people love that, and I saw many people say that it would be in their top 10, and they're not even sure if it can be in their top 10 now, because it's the 2020 release date, right?
They're going to do a qualifying run, I think, so It will count. But this category really, I think any international film category this year for any award ceremony, I can't see anything stopping Parasite. So
nope.
I love a lot of the movies on this list. I'm really glad Invisible Life from Brazil, which is going to be a late shower, that's coming out December 25th, I believe. But yeah, no, Parasite is
Parasite is the lock.
Yes.
It is the lock. Just real quick, we don't have to talk about this because we want to give at least like 5 to 10 minutes for AFI Fest, but Bonnie Award, Marielle Heller, Kelly Reichardt, and Lulu Wang. Producers Awards, Molly Astor, Krista Paris, Ryan Zeraras. Someone to Watch Awards. Oh my God. I'm just going to say the movies because I'm going to screw up all these names. Premature, The Third Wife, and The Last Black Man in San Francisco. And then Truer Than Fiction Award. Also, I'm just going to say the names of the movies. Black Mother, 17 Blocks, Shadowland, and America. So, some good categories there. The only one I needed to point out that I was very saddened about the lack of Waves, but I was also incredibly saddened by the lack of Peanut Butter Falcon.
Which is that's really surprising. That's another one that's brought to light. Geez, that should have gotten nominated. It's the most successful indie of the year. It cleared $20 million, which no other film has done, even, I believe, 824 movies. So, yeah, that's incredible.
I don't understand. You know, it was our movie pick of the week. I feel like everyone was talking about that when it came out. I feel like it did really well in theaters. And you have you got the kid with autism in the movie who's freaking incredible. You got Shia LaBeouf pouring his heart again into that. The directors, their first time screenwriters. I don't understand. So as we move over to AFI Fest, I'm very curious. I did not participate all that much. I went to do my big movies, the movies I have not seen. I saw Richard Jewell there, and I also saw Queen and Slim. I was supposed to go to Marriage Story last night, but I already saw it, and they sent me the screener, so I kind of said, well, I already had the big screen experience for this. I'll stay home and watch it again. But you're always committed. What were some of the standouts for you, and how do you feel about this whole charging for tickets thing this year?
It was an interesting festival. I think it was a better user experience for audiences attending because what they used to do there was they gave the tickets away for free. And so, but then they would have, they would say that they would overbook the theater so that the lines would often be, only like half to 2/3 of the line would get in. So a lot of people got turned away. And it also overwhelmed all the volunteers on the ground that had to deal with the crushing mass of people that were being thrown into this already chaotic situation at Hollywood and Highland. And so this year was a more relaxed festival, but you also had screenings that didn't have many people at them, which was unfortunate. But I was happy to see in a lot of films that even I was unaware of. There's a wonderful Serbian comedy called Ivana the Terrible that had a really nice turnout on Saturday. Another film, it was a really, really strong festival for female filmmakers. There's another film called Emma Slavic's Seven, that Canadian film that's a lovely little movie that I can't imagine would show in Los Angeles otherwise if not for AFI Fest, because it's about like an hour and 5 minutes long, so it's a strange tweener of a movie in that sense. But it had an okay turnout, but it's a wonderful film, and I think it really, gave people in LA a chance to see it.
That's great. How do you think this stuff played? I mean, you probably didn't see a lot of it, but things like The Friend, did you wind up seeing that here, or did you see that in Toronto?
I saw that in Toronto. I was super curious at what the turnout for that movie was, because that movie and Blackbird both came into AFI Fest still looking for distribution. I like both those films. They're unusual festival films because they feel like the movies that studios have abandoned in recent years, so they don't really feel like independent films, but at the same time they don't feel like they're really well made. They're really nice dramas. They sort of don't feel like the right fit. It's where you take up the cause, like, oh, this is an exciting new voice, but at the same time they need the kind of machinery to get the word out behind them that a studio would provide. So yeah, I don't know. And the interesting thing about a few of these movies is they used to play them at the Egyptian Theater, and they brought over the movies that they didn't want to put in the Chinese that were big premieres like Richard Jewell, but still have a higher profile like Just Mercy. They were putting in the Chinese one, and it felt more of like a multiplex experience than being at a festival. So it's an interesting, they're definitely in transition. I don't know what next year is going to look like. I hope it doesn't go the way of the LA Film Festival, where they made a whole bunch of changes that didn't work out and decided to call it off. I don't see that happening with AFI, but they definitely need, they're going to learn some lessons from this year.
I mean, as someone who's been to AFI multiple times since I've lived out here, I've been there for 5 years in just different capacities, like if I've gone to big premieres or I've actually tried to experience the festival as it is. I feel like it's always been very much unorganized and kind of a mess, which is also very saddening to hear, because as a film festival in Hollywood, from a big name like AFI, American Film Institute, you would hope that they would have things organized. And I mean, they do these great big galas and these big events, and you could tell like they're so sponsor funded and studio funded. They're very big things for the studios. But when it comes to those smaller movies, they just seem like they're a mess. They're just thrown together. No one really knows what they're doing. And I mean the ticketing system. I mean, here's how I feel about that is that I never understood the logic of giving a ticket for free. I don't like you have screenings every day of the year in LA where you can go to a test screening, a public screening where you can get for free, whether it's GoFobo or True AMC or Regal or whatever. When you have a festival, you need to, it's part of the experience. You should pay and you should support the filmmakers and the films going there. So like I never was on board with like just being a free festival. That being said, what they charge for tickets I didn't think was that unreasonable either. But I don't think there was enough build-up or enough plan, and maybe what they should have started was maybe charging for like the galas or something like that first, and then maybe charging like $5, having different rates.
Oh, I know. I agree with that completely. I find it strange that because there a lot of movies come into AFI Fest that very few people are aware of, even if you follow international cinema. And that really is where a lot of the films, I mean, that really is a focus of theirs, is bringing all of these films that wouldn't traditionally come into America or have distribution in America. They bring them in and... I thought that a variable pricing structure would have made a lot of sense for this. And even because they do still have the wherewithal, I believe, to not charge for certain films. They had a bunch of the documentaries on the award track for free. I think that they have a new auteurs section that would have allowed people to take a chance on those movies. And my feeling was that this year was a bad call on their part when they didn't have the kind of movies that would get people really, really excited. While there's a lot of great films out there, it was strange to me that, Uncut Gems didn't play AFI.
Right.
Movies that people would have absolutely paid to see. This was a selection that you really had to sort of take a chance on. And so... when you decide abruptly to charge for people after not charging for people, you have to have a slate of movies that can get people really excited. The Friend and Blackbird both have, a lot of sellable elements to it, but the fact is that people didn't see them in Toronto either. So there was no buzz coming into the festival, and they're really good movies. And even when you have a lower profile, if you don't have a studio behind you that can sort of get the word out or the buzz from a previous festival, it's hard to get people out.
Yeah, I think that's what film festivals struggle with is that, I mean, even at Sundance, and I love and support Sundance, and I've been supporting them, and it's that and Toronto are the two festivals that if I ever stopped doing anything in film criticism, I would probably still pay and go to. But I just feel like there's so many movies that go under the radar, even in those big festivals. So when you have a smaller thing like this, and everyone's so used to getting everything for free, just because this is the land of free, and Hollywood is like, oh, me having to pay for a screening? There's screening. What's the press? Where's the press screening? Where's the promo screening? Whatever it is, like everyone's not used to paying here. So, like, you have to give someone something that they want to pay for, and you have to have tiers. If you're going to charge something, you got to have like a $5, $10, $15. I think $15 is cheap for a premiere. Like to see Richard Jewell for $15. That's a bit. That's cheap. But like to see like one of the movies that you mentioned, $15. I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah, you don't know, and I mean it's. Yeah, it was an interesting, and the studios really don't support the festival either. I mean, that was an interesting thing. I mean, I went to the Just Mercy screening, and they were gonna have a conversation afterwards with Brian Stevenson, the real life lawyer involved in that case. But I was surprised being in Los Angeles that they couldn't bring out any one of the actors or director. I mean, anybody from the crew that actually lives here now. it was interesting in that respect that they didn't have the support of a lot of the people, a lot of the apparatus involved in the release as well. So yeah, I think it came and went without the attention that it probably deserved.
Yeah. All right, well, that's our show for this week. We will not be back next week because we have Thanksgiving holiday, but we'll be back the week after. Stephen Saito, where can they find you?
Site called the Movable Fest, movablefest.com.
All right, sounds good. You can find me over at WeLiveEntertainment.com. And stay tuned. We will be doing Anatomy of the Movie next, and we're going to be talking about Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood. So check that out, and I'll be on that show. Take care.
From producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, and the entire Popcorn Talk Network, we would like to thank you for tuning in. For questions or comments, be sure to visit popcorntalk.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of the Popcorn Talk Network.